Let's get now. 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 Let's get now.
Test, test. Test, test. Test, test.
Let's get loud. 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 Let's get loud.
March 13th meeting. Sorry, we have a new sound system and some new tech, and so yeah, exactly. We'll get used to this. So I'll just remind everyone today, well, I don't see microphones, so never mind. I guess they don't get to speak today.
I think it's picking up.
Oh, it's picking up from the sky. Okay. I was told to make sure I turn on my mic, so I was going to give that same instruction to you all, but obviously not the case. To DT. DT's going to get a lapel mic, a speaking mic, and the ambient mic. So anyway, we will start this meeting with Ms. Angela for our opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let us pray. Almighty and powerful God, thank you for the privilege of serving at JPS. May our work in this meeting reflect all that is important and good about our work and those we serve. Bless us with clarity in thought, word, and deed. Guide us with wisdom to do our best amid any challenges. May unity and truth be a part of the fruits of our labor. Amen.
It's my understanding we have a few citizens, or at least one citizen, that wishes to address the board. I just want to have a few important reminders that each speaker will be limited. Wishes to address the board. I just want to have a few important reminders that each speaker will be limited. Like I just said that. Address the board. I just want to have a few important reminders that each speaker will be limited. Like I just said that. Address the board. I just want to have a few important reminders that each speaker will be like I just said that. Address the board. I just want to have a few important reminders. Sorry for that. Derek told me that there would be some bugs, so we'll just work through them together. But each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask that you remain respectful and refrain from using inappropriate language. There'll be a counter up on the screens. Board members, I'll remind you, you should refrain from responding to comments in order to avoid accidentally venturing to subjects that are not properly before the body. And although we won't respond to any non-agendized matters today, we will consider taking up your matter on a future agenda. And I will now call up Katie Starnes to speak about the Tarrant County Jail and John Peter Smith Hospital. Thank you, Katie. That was the only speaker to speak. I'll move now to the approval of the Board of Manager meeting minutes from February 13th. Are there any revisions or changes to those meeting minutes? If not, I'll ask for a motion. Meeting minutes from February 13th. I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? There being none, motion passes. Harriet, just 1 second. As far as my board report, I don't have much to report other than we had the celebration of service event, breakfast a few days ago, or maybe last week. What a great event, celebrating, I think the longest tenured was 47 years. I'm sure you'll touch on that. Really exciting to see the excitement from all of our employees, especially those who've given so much of themselves to this organization and so much of their time. So I just want to appreciate that. Also, we've had several speakers in the last two meetings concerning JPS and Tarrant County Jail. And I just want to state this, that the Tarrant County Jail has many, many, many problems. And not many of those problems are JPS's. I do appreciate you and your group speaking to us and providing us with information. The board was forwarded 2 weeks ago, I guess, maybe a week and a half ago, the full Falcon report for the board to peruse through and read. I've spoken briefly with Dr. Duncan, and we will bring some of these recommendations back at a future board meeting. I just wanted to make sure you know that we hear you, and this board will take them up and discuss them and figure out what we're able to do.
Thank you. We appreciate that. We appreciate the opportunity to come and your responsiveness. And if there is any way that we can be of support or help in that process, that's what we're doing.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, it was short. I'm almost afraid to turn on my mic here, yeah. Oh, let's see.
We got a 1 second.
Oh, let's see.
We got a 1 second.
So we are keying up here. First of all, let me just, I don't think JPS takes or has given the thanks and the credit to the work that the board does. And I know that the cookies are not always a great reimbursement. But I do want to take this time to say to each of you, your commitment, I do for your dedication, for your support. Say to each of you. Okay. Let's see if I get this one right. So let's get loud. Say to each of you. Okay. So let's get I almost feel like I need to sing this. But I do want to say that I almost feel like I need to sing this. There are others outside of JPS, that actually get loud when they hear the song. So this is really moved outside the walls of JPS. And here is Scarlett, who happens to be listening to our town hall, in which we start off with Let's Get Loud. And she was listening in on it, and let's see what she does. Can we start this one up?
I imagine she's dancing.
She is, and it's so cute. Are we going to be able to see this?
There we go. Oh.
Let's start back.
There was some
Okay.
movement. Would you like me to reenact?
No. Come on, this is the cutest.
Right? Trent and I are for
This is what happens when you upgrade technology. Yeah. They're not going to be able to get it up? Okay. Well, this is actually Scarlett.
You want to go ahead and demonstrate now for us?
That's yours. Okay. And look closely at Scarlett and make a guess as to who her father is. Yes, it's Colin. This is Scarlett. She's the daughter of our Chief Compliance Officer, Colin. I want to say that not only does Scarlett demonstrate JPS spirit and moves in her spare time, she also plays hockey. And Colin actively contributes to the community as a certified USA hockey coach. She has unfortunately been coached by Colin for the past 2 seasons. We know how that is when a parent is coaching you. And recently, Scarlett was honored as the junior starter for the Dallas Stars game, where the Stars actually won 4-3 over the New Jersey Devils. And so this.
I was at that game. That's great. Yeah. Fantastic.
Were you really?
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome.
And here, oh, this one actually is working. Okay. This is Scarlett giving high fives to the, you see Scarlett there? She's giving high fives to the Dallas Stars hockey team. Look at her. Is that not?
Oh, my gosh. That's cool.
So, but I wish we could have really seen her dance, though. She is really, really cute. But this really just speaks to the work that many of our team members and our executives do outside of JPS and giving time within the community. So thank you, Colin, for sharing that. I really do want everyone to see those Scarlett dancing. So, okay, we have some new executive team members, and if you can stand as I call your name, we have TJ Grissetti. TJ, you want to stand there? And TJ is now our VP of Strategy and Business Development. TJ has over 35 years of healthcare experience, and he previously served as the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at Sisters of Charity, where he played a key role in managing the strategic relationships through the systems merger with Intermountain Health. So that was a big lift there, and TJ was at the center of that. He's held roles at Banner Health and Vizient, and actually started his career at Parkland as a fellow, and so has strong Texas connection. So welcome here, TJ. If you can just wave to the board here. Okay, if you can stay standing. Actually, did we miss one here? Let me. Okay, Charlie, if you can stand for us there. Charlie most recently served as the Vice President for Supply Chain Management and Chief Procurement Officer at UT Southwestern, and we were able to recruit Charlie here to be our VP of Supply Chain, and he has, in a very short period of time, done amazing work. He's also had a lot of experience, has served in the U.S. Air Force, and received his bachelor's degree from Texas A&M. So I know how you guys like these Texas schools. So welcome here, Charlie. And then George. George, are you here? Is George not here? George is not here, but he is now our new VP of Patient Experience, and I will introduce him at a future board meeting, but he actually started his career, Dorothy, as a nurse, many years ED nurse, and then got into patient experience, and so it's really nice to have the clinical leadership as we work through improving our patient experience. And then last, Dr. Assad, who will call you early in the morning and late at night to let you know what's going on. Dr. Assad's been with JPS for a number of years. You guys have probably seen her throughout the halls. She has done some extraordinary work with throughput and a lot of our improving our OR efficiencies, just to name a couple of things. But she is now serving as our interim chief medical officer. She actually had also served as our associate chief medical officer prior to moving into clinical operations here with us. Has strong both clinical and operations, and we're really looking forward to her stepping in and really helping us as the interim chief medical officer. So thanks, Charlie, TJ, and Dr. Assad for joining the executive team. As Chairman Fisher mentioned, we celebrated service last week. Believe it or not, for those of you who were not there, we have over 900 team members who have been serving at JPS for 15 years or more. That's pretty incredible. I want to thank the board members who were actually there. I think we have a picture here of all of them. Chairman Fisher, Reverend Emerson, Dustin, and Blake were all there. So again, the board involvement is so meaningful to the employees. But it's a fun event. Our employees love this. It's one of my favorite events also. So, as I mentioned earlier in the year, we are really placing our patients at the center of all the work that we do. And so we want to share with you our patients' stories. For a JPS patient, Casey Russell, running was and is his life. But when an accident altered that path, JPS was alongside him to provide care when he needed it the most. So please hear Casey's personal story. You may not hear Casey's personal story. This was probably not the day to have a lot of videos.
We're very multimedia heavy today.
Oh, yeah. On a
This is
new,
probably not the day to have a lot of
Casey's
videos. Very multimedia heavy today.
Oh, yeah. On a
This is
new,
probably not the day to have a lot of videos. These are pretty good microphones, gotta be careful.
Okay, so you know what? I think I will go ahead and we will try this on a different day. I do want to share with the board that for the second year in a row, there's Casey. Let me see if I can get out of here, okay? For the second year in a row, we have been named a Gallup Exceptional Workplace Award winner. So I do want to and just to remind you, Gallup Awards across all industries, the top 60 workplaces in the world. It's not just in Texas, it's not in Fort Worth, it's in the world. And it's not all health, it's not just healthcare, it's across all industry. And I think this really speaks to JPS and the amazing and incredible people that work here in being recognized, so.
Do we know how many are awarded back to back?
I don't know, that's a good, metric.
We're number one.
Okay, with that, Ashley, I'm going to ask Ashley to come up. You know, we are in the height of our legislative session. We always want to know what's going on and whether there's going to be impact to JPS. And so, Ashley, in this moving environment, give us an update.
Wonderful. And I don't know, do you have one more slide
And click it.
by chance? Yeah. Thank you. So good afternoon, as Dr. Duncan referenced, and this is my only slide, so we're just going to spend a few minutes on this. But we wanted to, again, take a few minutes and just provide a high-level update of the activities going on at the federal and state level. I know you all know there's no shortage of conversations going on within our various legislative bodies a lot of which decisions will be impacting healthcare providers. So I just wanted to kind of give you a brief update on some of those conversations, and also wanted to start by reiterating that we are not alone in this work. So we are fortunate to work closely with the American Hospital Association, the Texas Hospital Association, Teaching Hospitals of Texas, as well as our other, public hospital district counterparts throughout the state, and oftentimes our private hospital counterparts across the state as well. So it's very much a team effort. I'll start at the federal level. We really have two conversations that are going on from a funding perspective simultaneously at the federal level. The first conversation is, how is Congress going to fund the existing congressional year that we're in? So congressional year, fiscal year 25. And that's where you've seen probably earlier this week that the U.S. House passed a continuing resolution. That continuing resolution keeps the federal government and its programs funded at the current level until the end of the fiscal year for Congress, which is September 30th of this year. It does not have cuts to Medicaid or Medicare or other programs. That continuing resolution is now over on the Senate side, and the Senate has until this Saturday to decide if they're going to pass that CR in its current form to avoid a government shutdown. So that's one conversation that's going on. Within that continuing resolution, if that does go forward and is passed by the Senate as is, that will delay those Medicaid DSH cuts that we talk about quite a bit, that Rory and his team provide updates on, would delay those cuts until the end of September of this year. It also extends the Medicare telehealth waiver that we really have been able to take advantage of for the past several years to really extend access throughout Tarrant County and, quite frankly, our region. So that waiver extension that we're currently under, that would be extended until the end of this congressional year. So two positives for us in regards to the CR that the House has passed. The second funding conversation is now, how is Congress going to fund the next federal fiscal year? So congressional year, fiscal year 26. And that's where you're hearing, the budget reconciliation conversation really take place. That's where you're hearing a lot of conversation around different proposed cuts. And so I've listed just 4 cuts here, again, that are proposals. Very early in this, budget process for the next fiscal year for Congress. But all of these that I've listed here, and again, this is just a sampling, could be very problematic for us. So, potential cuts to the reimbursement rate that we currently have to Medicare and Medicaid, a capped Medicaid funding scenario, which y'all probably have heard in the past, Congress talk about more of a block grant or a per capita funding system that really would shift costs to the states. That could be, detrimental to the state of Texas because of how our supplemental payment structure currently is structured, and because we aren't a Medicaid expansion state. This third one, shifting more Medicaid costs to the states. That proposal actually is a couple of different proposals, but that would restrict the use of provider tax collections for the state portion of Medicaid. The Texas Hospital Association estimates this could result in a loss of approximately $1.4 billion to providers in Texas if, in fact, this conversation was to move forward and the federal government does decide to move more of a shifting over to those Medicaid costs to the states. And then lastly, on that federal list, the site-neutral payments. This is not a new topic. I've been talking about site-neutral on behalf of healthcare providers for, probably close to 10 years of my career, and we've been able to kind of beat back those proposals every year, but this is back on the table. And as you know, that would treat all care sites the same, regardless of your regulatory burdens that you may have. And in our case, as a hospital-based provider, our regulatory burden is quite more significant than other providers that aren't hospital-based. So our costs, are more significant. So just another idea, another proposal that certainly keeps rearing its head. I would also add to this, because there is significant potential impact to Texas. Our statewide leadership, Governor Abbott, our Lieutenant Governor, our Executive Commissioner of Health and Human Services Commission at the state level, key legislators within our state legislature, they're all very much engaged in this conversation with our congressional delegation so that our congressional delegation really does understand the impact of some of these proposals. And then that's obviously on top of, our engagement with our members of Congress, with their staff, as well as, engagement from other hospitals across the state as well. So the federal conversations are not happening in a vacuum where the state level folks aren't involved as well. So that's a good sign that we have, our statewide leadership working on these issues as well. And then just real briefly, in your packet, there is a multi-association letter that went out that highlights all of those federal issues that I just went through. So that gives you more detail on each of those. And then also in your packet, just as a reminder, we have our state legislative priorities document. Just to remind you, what we're focused on at the state level. I did want to highlight just a couple of those areas in today's presentation. And again, just keep in mind that what's going on at the state level, what's going on at the federal level is very much overlaying, itself. In conversations at the state level. So, when the state is looking at, maintaining point 3 here on the slide, maintaining stable, equitable hospital funding, they are very much aware of those federal conversations that are going on for fiscal year 26 at the congressional level. So we, of course, are focused on the state making more investments into healthcare workforce programs, specifically grant programs that support clinical nurse education and training. We worked very hard to get a bill passed last session, Senate Bill 25 on this. It just didn't have funding. The bill passed, but with no funding. So we're going back this year requesting funding for that, which could really help us on our nurse preceptor site program, could allow us to train more nurses and work even more closely with some of our college and university partners and get paid for some of that work in that partnership and education and training. Second on here, I have strengthened access to behavioral health services. We're specifically working on funding for intensive outpatient program as well as a partial hospitalization program that are Medicaid benefits today, but there's not funding associated with those. So we're providing those benefits. A lot of providers across the state are providing those care services to our patients in the continuum of care, but there's not a reimbursement associated with those. So there is a bill that does have some strength to it to really perhaps fund those programs in the next state legislative biennium. And then also in the behavioral health space, y'all are very familiar with our participation in the Tchd program, which is behavioral health, telehealth, that's open to any child in Tarrant County and beyond, actually, K through 12, that needs behavioral health services. And we are a hub for that program. We operate that program in 9 counties. And that program has been partially funded by the federal government and the state government. The federal portion of that funding has now waned, and so we're asking the state to pick up that difference so that we can continue to have Tchd and the great outcomes that we're having because of that. I mentioned the hospital financing piece. Always want to thank Rory and his team. They are my phone a friends all the time because probably 90% of the time what I talk about is finance in nature. And then lastly, we have a whole host of other issues that are just out in our environment that we're monitoring and working that will have some sort of, or could have some sort of, impact to healthcare providers. And I've listed those here at the end of the slide. Artificial intelligence. We actually have 2 Tarrant County members with bills around artificial intelligence and different aspects of how that should be applied in a healthcare setting. The 340B program obviously is a critical program to our health system and the patients that we treat. Also, political subdivision conversations. There are always numerous bills that involve special purpose districts or political subdivisions, so we're always looking to see how a hospital district might get pulled into some of those additional requirements or mandates. Budget riders, nurse staffing, property tax, facility fees, and trauma funding. So again, just a lot of other issues that are out there that will certainly have, potential impact to us going forward. And so in summary, I would just say that, working particularly with all of the different associations that we work with, when they're looking across the entire landscape, federal and state, they really do think that at the end of the day, healthcare providers will have some sort of reduction of some kind because of all of the different conversations that are going on. The issue is we don't have enough details today, particularly at the federal level, to really quantify what some of those impacts are going to be. And I know Rory and his team have already started some of the modeling based on the limited information that we have, and that modeling, will certainly be refined as we get more information, particularly from the federal government, and particularly as their fiscal year 25 is closed out potentially with the continuing resolution, and they really in earnest start to look at congressional year 26. So just a lot of moving parts, and we have a great team that are working to monitor and to really, educate and have those impactful conversations on how things are going to impact us. So with that, I'll take any questions, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ashley, for your efforts.
Certainly.
Trent's got
Yes,
some
sir.
comments.
To what extent are we tracking the potential combination of the tax status of the municipal bond?
So we are tracking that. It's working through the process, and, we're providing our input, our impact to legislators as that topic is brought up and is talked about. So, but no, it's definitely on our radar, on our tracking program for sure. Yes.
That one apply to bonds issued by
Hospital districts, yes.
The remainder of our facilities go up 300 basis points.
Correct.
I guess globally, actually, what I would say is, and I appreciate your report, I would love that the board have an opportunity to become more engaged and involved in this process. They're not talking about this. To the extent, Mr. Chairman, that maybe we consider on some of these critical items, bringing forth resolutions that the board could adopt and send to our legislative bodies. Because some of these are just massive. The difference between Texas being a non-expanded Medicaid state and what the Medicaid cost share should be. Us, we need a huge financial impact. And I just love to think that we've got a great staff that does a super job. We have a great lobbying team, but it's really something I would hope that we can all become engaged in the midst of all this, because there are some incredibly expensive measures being considered state and federal level. And I'd love for us to be able to, from time to time, at the resolution stage, those changes.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, Ashley, upon your recommendation, and Dr. Duncan, of course, when you think you may need a push from us, that I think this board would be willing to discuss it. I know certainly in the state legislature, although we're kind of in the middle of the session, it's still early as far as those
Very
bills
early.
being discussed.
Yeah.
So jumping on board until we want to get on board when we have a better framework of what the bill actually looks like.
Right.
Versus endorsing something, then something dramatically changes. And then
correct.
that just causes confusion.
Correct.
But I think this board is willing to give any added firepower that we might have to your efforts, should you need them.
Excellent. And what you just described is, completely accurate in terms of being early on in the state legislative process. And I'm always hesitant to come out and support a bill right when it's filed, because it may go through 15, if not more iterations, good or for good or for bad, that would impact us. So, but in terms of when the timing is right, most definitely, most definitely. And then on the federal piece, Trent, once we have some more clarity, specifically numbers associated with some of these cuts, and we can do some of that modeling and be able to provide, an estimated financial impact to JPS, that would be ideal, to be able to then do a comment letter of some kind or a resolution or whatever would be appropriate. So, thank y'all. So, thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you.
And then B, over the last few days.
Okay, well then, just for safety's sake, we'll move that to the closed agenda. Is that okay?
Other questions amongst the board members, I mean, I'd be happy to entertain them, but.
Okay.
There's quite a little bit of discussion.
Okay. We will move item 7B to closed and vote on that after close. Next up is committee, thank you, committee action, committee reports and action, Finance, Planning, and Investment Committee, February 27th, 2025. Chairman Petty.
Mr. Chair, just a few highlights to refresh the board's mind on our master facility program. We will be opening our PEC later on this summer. Medical Home Southwest, as all of you know, is up and running. Our new parking garage is still slated for spring of 2026, so that's on schedule. In terms of financials, our bond ratings, 3 or 4 are in, and all have maintained our current affirmed rating, so that's great news. Your Hilltop quarterly investment report was in your portal. Our inpatient volumes continue to be high, thanks to some of our throughput initiatives, which were mentioned earlier. We did see a decline in commercial, an increase in connection, so that's a little bit of negative impact. Budget-wise, our connection enrollment continues to be a focal point, and we're continuing to look and track what that enrollment looks like. Under agenda today, under consent, are two items approved by the SPI committee, the LEF 4900 investment policy, and the 16 contracts. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chairman Petty. Mr. Bose, how about human resources?
The Human Resource Committee met on February 27th, and we received a highlight edit from Ashley on recognition of excellence for certain departments, and we really looked at the matrix for turnover, impact on nursing, and our strategy for reducing first-year nursing turnover. So then we have one item for closed session, one on the consent agenda for the social media policy.
Thank you very much. All right. Other matters requiring board discussion, updates, deliberation, action, and approval is consider approval of a resolution authorizing the amendment and restatement of the JPS pension plan. Ms. Daphne.
Yes, thank you. Board members, you should have received a red line version of the pension plan in the board portal. This was sent to us by our actuary. Per IRS rules, the pension plan document needs to be restated every 6 years to incorporate all plan amendments since the last restatement, along with the changes required by legislative and regulatory changes in the interim. So there are no new changes in that document since the last amendment that you all approved. This is just those amendments that are actually voted into a restated plan. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to entertain those. Otherwise, we are presenting the resolution to adopt that restated document.
Thank you. And Dorothy?
There was a change in there we used to have an employee on the trustee, and then the red line is it is a plan administrator. That was one of the changes I made.
So that would have, if it's red line, then that means there was an amendment that actually included that, or that was per a legislative rule.
So, okay, so the changes that I'm looking at were legislative changes.
They could have been, yeah.
This was a comprehensive change, wrapping up all the various changes over the last 6 years into this document.
Yeah, well, that was, the red line district was one that I reviewed, and that was one of the things, because we did used to have somebody sit on the board. And so that was the change that was highlighted. So I don't know if there was a legislative change. I don't have a problem with it, but it was a major change.
On the TAJ board, the board for
trustee.
Rory, aren't you on it?
Yes.
He's still on.
Okay, well, as it said in that new policy, that is a change. And if they are not, it says the plan for. So that was the change that I needed. I didn't see anything in there because it had employer scratched out and plan administrator. So that is a change. So you might be sitting there, but you ain't on it. That's so says that policy.
Well, that becomes our appointed administrator that represents us now?
Yeah,
Is
which-
that what that says?
I'm just telling you.
Follow what she's saying.
You sit on that as the plan administrator?
No, just a board member.
Just a board member.
Well, I think by definition.
It's the
that-
same thing.
Yeah, that we are the plan.
JPS is the plan administration.
I'm just looking at the definition.
So Rory would still be on it as a
Yeah.
member.
Yeah.
I think that they probably just updated it per definition of what the plan administrator is.
There any other questions or comments? I'll ask for a motion. Got a motion? And a second? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, next up is the consent agenda. I know that there are several items. There's some items that need to be discussed but not pulled. Blake called and gave me a heads up. So Blake, was that 1 and 2 and then the social media policy, or was it 1, 2, and 3 and the social media policy?
A, B, and C.
A, B, and C, and then social media. Okay, let's,
A little bit of discussion.
yeah. And Blake, I appreciate you calling me and giving me the heads up. That way we can make sure staff's ready, and I think Rory's ready to answer some questions on A, B, and C.
Yeah, and while Rory comes up here, can we do social media?
Sure, yeah.
So what I wanted to mention, the HR committee discussed the social media policy, and I had asked, the way that policy works, it references a procedure. So I'd asked Daphne to give you the procedure, if you have it in your packets, social media procedure that's sort of the meat behind the policy, which is a very brief policy. And I had asked Daphne to add some language to the social media procedure, just making it clear that this does not restrict in any way any employee's First Amendment rights. So she's given you the red line, the changes she added. I don't know if you want to add anything else.
I think you covered it. Did you see the red line? I know you wanted to look at it.
It says this procedure is not intended to prevent or discourage team members from exercising their rights under laws such as the National Labor Relations Act, Title VII Civil Rights Act of 1964, or the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. So I think that's excellent. So thank you for adding that.
All right.
And then, Rory, would you please just provide a little bit of background information on A and B, which are the shared duties between two vendors, and then the multi-plan contracting C.
Okay, we can start with those third-party eligibility companies that we use to qualify patients for government programs. Don't want to confuse that with connections eligibility. We have a staff run by Michelle Haynes and her team, and they work with connections patients for eligibility and enrollment. These are people who are specialized in government programs such as Medicaid, Medicare, and disability in particular in that qualification for benefits. So we do recognize that these are obviously large dollars, and we want to be sensitive to the fact that we are using taxpayer dollars effectively and efficiently, but these are services absent them, we would not have a significant amount of reimbursement for the system. Roughly $52 million annually is what we receive in reimbursement from the efforts of these team members that are working for RCA and Elevate. That is roughly a 15 times return on cost. So when you look at those dollars, they look very big, but there is definitely a large return on our investment. So there were other questions asked. Are they incumbents? Yes, they were both incumbents. And there was another question asked around why is one a little bit higher than the other? And it's just simply the way the alphabet is split. More patients fall into one portion of the alphabet. A through, for example, A through L is a little bit heavier weighted than M through Z. And so it means more referrals to that company, but also more payments come in from Medicaid and other agencies. And so they receive a little bit more. And that's the explanation for the difference in dollars. Do they meet their metrics was another question asked. We track their conversion rate according to a national standard. And that conversion rate is of the patients that they accept and apply for government assistance, how many of them actually obtain it. And it's a little bit over 90% for both of them, 92 and 93. And then there was another question asked about workflow. These, as you know, Connections is a payer of last resort or a plan of last resort. So we go all the way through other sources of funding for patients. We evaluate them for those programs. We file applications as needed, and then we place them in a pending status within Epic. And then when they're converted to Medicaid, we move them to Medicaid and then bill appropriately and get paid for that. So that's a quick rundown on the eligibility. So I'm happy to ask any other question or answer any other questions, but definitely a service we have used over the years. I think there's a question about Change Healthcare. They were a vendor years ago. There was also a company by the name of MASH, and then there's been MedData and Elevate. So we do review these vendors every 3 to 5 years for best fit for the system as well as best cost offering as well.
The return on our investment, so it was 15 to 1?
15 to 1, yes, that's correct.
Thank
I'm not sure I explained it correctly. Like the last time, the final is good, that was good. Instead of good, if they get that good, you may just mark it again with the other side. That call would be like to
Yeah, we like to use the two-vendor methodology because we can benchmark them against each other. We actually had an occurrence with this prior collection or contracting cycle where one was actually lagging on the outpatient side, because it's very easy to funnel off the inpatient or higher dollar stuff and not work the outpatient. And we were actually able to say, you're performing poorer on outpatient, and that would be mostly our ED patients. And so we were able to say, you have to step up and meet the performance of the other vendor, and it's worked. So that two-vendor performance really works well. Yep.
So that's A and B, and then can you give a little information on what was left?
Yeah, this one is a little bit harder to understand and grasp, but when we are a payer. When you look at JPS, we pay claims just like a Cigna or an Aetna for connections members. We pay those claims through a team members here at JPS, and they have a claims adjudication software that they use. And this multi-plan contract is to help them with the accuracy of that payment. We have not had this technology for a handful of years due to mostly vendors exiting the space, and then this particular function is not built into the software. So you have to buy a bolt-on tool to help with the proper payment. I'll give you an example. A GI physician bills a colonoscopy, and then they also bill a colonoscopy with a biopsy, okay? You shouldn't pay for both of those because one is inclusive in the other. So that is an example of what this technology does. If you were to have a person try to do that, we pay 1 million claims a year. So if someone manually was trying to go through and do all those edits, we would miss a significant amount. So that is what this software does. Our net expected savings from overpaying and underpaying after we pay for this technology is about $700,000 a year. So there is a return on this, but it's also more or less a standard that we have to utilize in that claims payment processing cycle. So.
we have two different reacting as the two table and the bill at the same time.
Correct.
So as the bill drops down, you run through the iodine and all that. You jack it up. Not jack it up, but check for those. And then on this side, you said, no, we're not going to pay. What is the same? That food we increased, we paid them for that, and then we paid them to take it off. So we got cut twice.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like I would describe as two different tracks. You have the inbound claims that we pay for connections members. We might get billed from sound physicians or billed from rant or a claim. That's very separate and apart from the actual accounts receivable of the hospital. So I would say the only time that data really marries itself to each other is kind of in the cost per member. We do get to that level in now what's called Epic and Healthy Planet. So we have that ability to pull all of that cost together for a connections member, but they're very two distinct, separate processes.
And you were going to, there was a reason why this didn't get in the budget, because it goes back to the Change Healthcare.
Yeah, so really, when we were very far along with Change Healthcare, they offered this technology. That is when the cyber attack occurred on Change Healthcare, and they decided to exit and not offer this product. So we had to start over with a new RFP in late 2024. And in that process, we didn't get it in the budget. Oversight really is the only explanation, but we do know we have a return on the expense in claim savings, so it's not an additional net expense to the organization. It's actually positive for us to do this. Yep. When you look at the edits, you have thousands upon thousands of code bundling edits, code pairs, and so this is something that we pay somebody to provide us. They look at all of the professional-related code bundles, and it's kind of a scrubber, if you will. That's a good term that says scrub the billing that you're getting to say this is appropriate for payment.
Thanks, Roy.
You bet.
Thank you, Blake, for calling those items out. That's everything else that's on the consent agenda is there for you to read. After having that explanation, no items to remove, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I just, one more thing on HR.
Oh, sure.
8300. It talks, we've had this discussion before about policies about the zone and who they apply to. Just a question on this one. It talks throughout in both the first and second paragraph about employees, but then it switches in the very last sentence to say this policy applies to all JPS employees and team members. Is that, and I don't know, is team members a term of art that we use, or is that just some language that got in there? Because everywhere else it talks about employees. So would this apply to when we say this applies to a contractor, does this apply to us? I guess that's kind of I think it's a great policy. I'm just trying to figure out who's the zone.
And to apply to contracting staff as well. Because we do have some that serve as workforce members that are under contract. I'm looking at Ashley to make sure I'm saying that correctly.
So should we, well, does it apply to the board?
I don't think we've called out the board.
Should we use team members in other parts of the policy where we only use employees?
We probably could just take out, did we define team members?
That's why I say it doesn't look like it's a term of art. It's not
Yeah, we didn't
capitalized.
define it. So we probably would say, we can add that. We can just say team members. Or
Is
employees
team
and
members
team
defined
members.
anywhere?
That's what I was, I didn't have it in front of me.
Right.
Yeah, so,
I mean, if it's not defined, then it's meaningless.
but
Yeah.
you said to be consistent, if we're gonna say team members and.
That's all I'm saying, is like,
employees and
yeah.
team members, yeah.
Because right at the end, we switched to JPS employees and team members, and so I think just to prevent any confusion of what's what. And I haven't looked at 8301.
That's it.
Does it say, I don't know what term it uses. It uses team members, and it capitalizes team.
We'll clean that up.
What is a team member?
Any staff that's doing work on behalf of JPS, so contracted team members. I think they're being used synonymously and interchangeably here, so we'll clean it up to be clear.
Okay.
That's not just a W-2 employee, but it's anybody doing work on behalf of JPS.
But it's not board members.
It's not board members.
Okay. Good catch, Sam.
Any further questions, discussion? I'll ask for a motion.
So move.
Got a motion? And a second? Any more discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we will move now to executive session. We'll take a 5-minute break. We'll come back to open session. We're going to go to item 7G1 with a motion.
I move that the merit increase to 3%.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I've got 2 noes. Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you.
All right, that was the wrong, I gave you the wrong, it should have been item 12G1. Now, item 7B, request for approval of delineation of privilege forms as discussed. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Motion, Tim. Second, Reverend. All in favor? Any further discussion? Motion carries. With no further business, we did privileges. Yeah, yeah, with no further businesses, we,
What about 7B2?
We did item 7B, so.
I did 7B. It was, they were together.
Do y'all
Yeah.
want to take them
Yeah.
separately?
Is there any problem?
No.
Okay. All right. With no further business, we stand adjourned. Thank you.